our teammates were spot on or bullshit. Before he had a chance to give me the rundown on more players, the locker room door opened and the coaching staff filed in. I jerked my gaze from the middle of the room, where the coaches now gathered in a line, before I made eye contact with him. He had to know I was on this team. Fuck, he might have even played some part in my being selected. If he had, most likely he planned on extracting some form of penance from me. I so didn't want to be on this team. His team. But my only other option was to quit hockey, and I'd be damned if I'd let that bastard take away the one thing in my life that still brought joy and light to the darkness in which I dwelled. Instead, I grabbed my stick and concentrated on taping it carefully and with exacting precision. The head coach, Duke Jefferson, began to speak, and I chanced to glance upward. I hadn't seen him this close up in years. Only a few times when he'd been coaching a minor league affiliate my team happened to be playing. We'd ignored each other then, and we ignored each other now. I half expected him to call me out for taping my stick while His Majesty was imparting wisdom to his subjects, but he didn't, proving he didn't want this confrontation to be public any more than I did. In truth, I didn't want any kind of confrontation with him. He was my coach and I was his player, plain and simple. Nothing more, nothing less. Those days had long passed. The damage done was irreparable. For both our sakes, I prayed he treated me like any other player and didn't single me out for a talk. This was his first head coaching gig in the majors, and he wouldn't want to mess up by causing undue conflict with one of his players, even a rookie. Or at least I hoped that was the truth. Even better, maybe I'd get my ass traded and be out of here soon. Being sent back to the minors would be better than seeing and hearing that man every day. While I was still considered a rookie, I'd been called up and played in several games during the last month of the previous season. I'd fought and scratched my way onto that team and had been a shoo-in to win a spot this year until they'd left me unprotected and allowed Portland to steal me away. I'd be lying if I didn't admit I was still bitter toward my old team. A part of me understood this was business and nothing personal, but it still hurt to not be valuable enough to be protected. Yet my old team had left more experienced and proven players exposed, and it made no sense why the Icehawks had chosen me, except for revenge. The coach did his rah-rah stuff, and I fought to keep my stomach from turning. All this positivity, team building, and attitude crap coming out of his mouth was hypocritical. I did everything I could to keep my mouth shut. He even handed out scraps of paper for us to write our goals on, which drew a derisive snort from Briggs next to me. Briggs had made dissenting remarks throughout the coach's speech, and I'd given a few indications I agreed, which only encouraged him. I had an ally in my surly teammate, even if he was a dick. We had one thing in common that had bound us together this season. We both despised our head coach. We saw through his bullshit positivity to the real guy underneath. But I had one thing Briggs didn't have, my tumultuous history with this man I was now forced to call coach. The man who'd once been my mentor, my biggest fan, my supporter, and never would be again. Unknown to anyone in this room, that man was unfortunately my father.
Chapter 1. Mr. Gorgeous. 2 months later. Aspen. I never thought I'd be one of those starving artists. Yet, here I was, worse than starving. More like destitute, one step away from being homeless and barely scraping by. Not having a place to call my own wasn't how I'd envisioned my life, nor was dropping out of college. But then nothing had gone according to my carefully laid out life plan. I'd come to Portland 2 years ago to find my missing mother and never returned home to Seattle. Portland's weirdness fit my own corresponding quirkiness, and I liked it here. Even if I didn't, I couldn't leave the place where my mom was last seen without knowing what happened to her. After getting off the bus, I took a shortcut through an alley and hurried past the back door of a dive bar. This place gave me the creeps, but most of the guys standing outside for a smoke were too busy drowning in their own sorrows to pay attention to me. A few made rude remarks, but thankfully none of them expended the effort to do more than that. I scurried past them, around the corner, and onto the uneven sidewalk toward the Rainbow Unicorn Studio, where I lived with the director of the uni, as many of us.